All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating condition called Addison's disease. Now, this is a scenario where your body's own defense system, the very thing designed to protect you, actually turns against you. It becomes the aggressor. So you gotta wonder, how does a medical mystery like this even begin?
You know that feeling of being completely wiped out? We've all been there. But what if that feeling just never went away? For someone with Addison's, we're not talking about your typical long week at work kind of tired. This is a profound, unrelenting exhaustion. And it's really just the first clue in a much bigger mystery, where the body starts sending out some pretty strange signals you just can't ignore.
Okay, so first up, let's explore how this whole thing kicks off. It really starts with the body staging a kind of rebellion against itself, throwing out this whole mix of confusing signs and symptoms.
So here's the thing. The initial clues are super vague. I mean, think about it. Crushing fatigue, dropping weight for no reason, nausea, that could be anything, right? Dozens of things. And that's exactly what makes Addison's so tricky to diagnose at first. It's like a puzzle where you really have to hunt for the more specific, telltale clues to crack the case.
So what's actually causing all this chaos? Well, it all comes down to a problem with two tiny but incredibly important glands. You can think of them as the body's main hormone factory. So here it is. Addison's disease at its very core is what we call an autoimmune condition. Basically, your immune system gets its wires crossed. It misidentifies your adrenal glands, these little guys that sit on top of your kidneys, as a foreign invader and starts to attack and destroy them. The result? A critical shutdown of that hormone factory we just mentioned.
And when we look at the causes, there is one clear main culprit. Yeah, sure, things like infections or even cancer can damage the adrenal glands. But look at this. A whopping 80% of cases, especially in places like the UK, are caused by this friendly fire, this autoimmune attack. The body is literally, and I mean literally, at war with itself.
Okay, so what are we losing when this factory shuts down? Well, we're losing two absolute superstar hormones. First up, you've got cortisol. You've probably heard of it as the stress hormone, but it does so much more. It manages your blood sugar, keeps your immune system in check, and helps you handle stress. Then you have aldosterone. Think of this one as the salt regulator. It's in charge of balancing sodium and potassium to keep your blood pressure stable. Yeah, losing both of these, it's a recipe for total chaos.
Right. So with the hormone factory out of commission, the body starts sending up these distress signals, those strange clues we talked about earlier. This is where the real detective work begins, connecting the dots between the missing hormones and some very specific and frankly very weird symptoms.
So you get past the exhaustion, and then you see these clues that really make doctors sit up and take notice, like an overwhelming, intense craving for salt. We're talking raiding the pantry for pickles and chips. That's literally your body screaming for sodium because aldosterone isn't there to manage it. But maybe the most bizarre clue of all? The skin starts doing strange things. You might see vitiligo, patches where the skin loses its color, and even weirder, an unexplained darkening of the skin. And this skin darkening, or hyperpigmentation, has a wild biological explanation. It's like a chain reaction. Step 1, the adrenal glands stop making cortisol. Step 2, the pituitary gland in your brain, think of it as mission control, panics and starts shouting for more cortisol. It does this by flooding the system with a hormone called ACTH. But here's the kicker, the biological twist. The process that creates all that ACTH also creates a little something extra, a byproduct hormone that stimulates your skin's pigment cells. So more shouting for cortisol means more pigment production. The result, your skin, especially in creases and around scars, gets darker.
And that's precisely why this skin darkening is such a dead giveaway. With primary Addison's, the problem is the adrenal glands themselves are broken. So the pituitary shouts and you get the tan. But there's another condition called secondary adrenal insufficiency where the problem is actually with the pituitary. It's not shouting in the first place. So no shout, no extra pigment, no tan. It's the #1 clue doctors use to tell these two conditions apart.
So how do doctors move from suspicion to a rock-solid diagnosis? Well, let's get into the tests they use to officially solve this medical mystery.
The investigation almost always kicks off with a straightforward blood test. But here's the key. Timing is absolutely everything. They draw the blood at 9 a.m. on the dot. Why? Because that's when your natural cortisol levels should be at their absolute peak for the day. It's the perfect moment to see if that hormone factory is even open for business.
Now, if everything's working as it should, you'd expect to see a pretty high number, over 500 nanomoles per liter. Don't worry about the units. It just means there's a lot of cortisol in there. A result like this is a good sign. It tells the doctor, hey, the factory is humming along nicely, and it makes Addison's really, really unlikely.
But on the flip side, if that number comes back under 100, that is a huge red flag. A level that low is definitely not normal. It's basically screaming that the factory is nearly shut down, making almost no cortisol right when it should be making the most. It's a very strong signal that something is wrong with the adrenals.
And then, of course, there's the gray area. What if the result is somewhere in the middle, between 100 and 500? Well, that's just ambiguous. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. It's a maybe. And a maybe in medicine means you've got to dig deeper with more tests.
And that's where the definitive test comes in. It's called the ACTH stimulation test, and it's really the gold standard. Doctors basically give you a shot of that shouting hormone, ACTH, to see if the adrenal glands are listening. If your cortisol levels shoot up, great, the glands work. If they don't budge, well, that's the proof. The glands are damaged and can't respond. Case closed. The mystery is solved.
All right, so once the diagnosis is in, the focus makes a hard shift from mystery solving to day-to-day management. So for our last section, let's talk about what it's actually like to live with this condition, how to handle the risks, and what the path forward looks like.
On paper, the treatment sounds pretty simple. You just replace the hormones that are missing. People take hydrocortisone for the cortisol and another pill called fludrocortisone for the aldosterone every single day for life. But it's so much more than just taking pills. Knowing the sick day rules, like what to do when you get a simple cold or the flu, is absolutely critical for staying safe.
And this is exactly why that education is a matter of life and death. Because the biggest danger is something called an adrenal crisis. Imagine your body is under major stress, a bad infection, maybe a car accident. A healthy body would flood itself with cortisol to cope. But someone with Addison's can't do that. Their body can't produce that surge, and it can send them into shock. It is a true medical emergency.
And what's scary is that the triggers for a crisis can be everyday things. A nasty infection, a planned surgery, or even just a bad stomach bug where you can't keep your meds down. Any of these can tip the scales and push a person into this dangerous state. It just goes to show you, being prepared isn't optional, it's everything.
The good news is there is a clear, life-saving game plan for when this happens. The first move is always an emergency injection of hydrocortisone, followed by a rush of IV saline to get the blood pressure back up. It's a fast and furious intervention, but it works. And what's really important is that patients and their families are often taught how to do this themselves.
So look, an adrenal crisis is no joke. It's incredibly serious. But the real takeaway here should be a positive one. With that careful daily management and a rock-solid emergency plan, Addison's is absolutely a manageable condition. People can and do live completely full, active lives.
And that really brings us to the big picture, the final thought. This whole story of Addison's disease is just such a powerful reminder of the incredible, delicate balance inside our own bodies. And it leaves you with a really profound question, doesn't it? Our immune system is our greatest defender. But what does it truly mean when the protector becomes the attacker? That question, that's really at the very heart of every autoimmune disease out there. Thanks for listening.